Today I'm going to show you how to install LEDs into a piece of velvet fabric. For this project, you'll need a hot glue gun, whatever fabric you want to apply your LEDs to, scissors, tailor's chalk, and of course, your LED string lights. You're going to start by marking where you want each individual LED on your fabric using your tailor's chalk. Mine are kind of random. I didn't try and measure or anything like that. It's supposed to look like stars, so they don't need to be exactly perfect, but your project, it might be different. While you're marking, make sure that you take into account the distance between each of the LEDs. You can see here, that'll just barely make it. So it's important that you're keeping an eye on how far apart each one is so that they'll actually reach. Just gonna finish my marks. And there are, on the strings that I have, there are 20 LEDs on each string. So that's also something to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out how many strings you'll need. Once you have finished marking each place that you'd like to have your LEDs, take your scissors, you pinch it to make a little crease so that you can cut just a little tiny hole in the fabric. And that actually came out a little bit bigger than I'd like, so I'll be a little bit more conservative next time. You want just a little tiny hole so that when you poke your LED through, it'll show the way that you want it to. Okay, once you have added all of your holes to the piece of fabric that you're installing it into, you're going to take each LED and just press it through the hole like that. Okay, hold it steady. Put a little ring of hot glue around the edge. And then secure it using a scrap of plain black fabric. Let's take a minute and see how that's going to end up looking. Awfully pretty, isn't it? This is a really good reason to stick with using the velvet fabric. It's difficult to see in the velvet, which is why I picked that type of fabric in the first place. But the glue actually will cause some wrinkling around where you've installed the LED. I definitely wouldn't choose anything shiny or anything that shows a lot of the wrinkles in the fabric. So I think velvet is a good choice, and also it does look a lot like the night sky as well. So it's pretty. Okay, so let's put the finishing touches on here. I like to make sure that the battery pack is glued to the seam. It makes them a little bit easier to find when you need to turn the garment on and off. Okay, so right there in the seam, it's totally fine. And I ended up needing just under 2 strings to do this little piece of fabric that I have here. I would try and make sure that the screws on the battery pack are still facing out in case you end up needing to replace any of the batteries. So something to look out for. And you can see the back is pretty messy. So I would definitely recommend making sure that you do this technique on something that you intend to line or that already has a lining. Now, you may be wondering what to do if you end up with a little bit of extra at the end of the project. And mine actually worked out almost perfectly. I have just 2 or 3 LEDs left over at the end. And you can actually just cut that right off without any problems at all. So I'm just going to clip that. And you can see that the string still works totally fine. So let's turn it on. Ta-da! So you have this beautiful garment with LEDs, just like the night sky.